This is JRD 1016 on the Sleeper Streets, and you're listening to the All Formats podcast. Unparalleled fantasy advice for hashtag all formats.
All right, everybody. Welcome to, I believe, episode 3 of the College Format podcast. This week we're going to be previewing week 2 of college football, and just not to be a downer right away, but there's not many good games on this slate. There's a handful that I'm very excited to watch, but it's kind of like a down week for college football. So, if by some chance you have tickets to a Penn State game, I would say you should probably go to that Penn State game. Don't really worry about watching football this weekend, but so as you can see, our little background jersey for this episode, that's in the G.A. Hall 84 when he used to play for Alabama. He's now in Texas, but he was originally from Alabama, and they are playing this week. So we're going to be talking about that game a little bit later because that's one of the only ones that I'm actually kind of excited to watch. But we're just going to kind of get right into it. I believe it should be only me for this episode. David and Joe are, busy doing their jobs and stuff. But so you're just going to see my pretty face for this episode. It probably should be a short one for you guys. But we're going to kind of get right into it. As I was talking about, Penn State plays at noon. They play Ohio. And as a little bit of background, I will be going to this game. I will be doing the actual eyeball test on most of these Penn State guys, and I'm going to be keeping my eyes on Mitchell Tinsley probably the whole game because he had a really good week 1, and I'm really excited to see if he could just tear up this Ohio team in week 2. I kind of like him as a sneaky NFL prospect. So if he has another big week this week, I'm going to be really excited. I want to kind of see Parker Washington kind of show off a little bit more. Kind of had a down week 1, but I still think he's a solid player. I think he's a slot guy in the NFL, but I still think he's solid, and I think he should get more buzz. So hopefully he can kind of have a bounce back week. And I'm hoping all of these running backs kind of have a bounce back week as well. Singleton had an okay game. I really like that other freshman running back we have, Katron Allen. So I'm hoping they both have good weeks this week. Hopefully we stomp Ohio, we are. Another game I'm kind of excited to watch is that Missouri-Kansas State game, mostly just to watch Luther Burden play. And I'm still kind of interested in Deuce Vaughn as a running back. Obviously, he's like Darren Sproles reincarnated, but he keeps having good football games, so I think we should be talking about him. But mostly want to see Luther Burden kind of show off in that game, see if they keep utilizing him properly. Ohio State's going to stomp Arkansas State. There's not really much to talk about there. Hopefully they just kind of get that offense rolling and get into a rhythm for later on in the season. Arkansas plays South Carolina. I think it's a sneaky little QB matchup between KJ Jefferson and Spencer Rattler. KJ Jefferson had a good week in week 1. And a lot of people are talking about him as being like a kind of late riser into this 23 class for the QBs. But I'm going to need to see it. I don't really know if he's that good of a passer, in my opinion, to be like a top prospect in this 23 class. But if he keeps improving and keeps having big games, I think we should definitely be talking about him. And Spencer Rattler for me is out, but a lot of people are still talking about him in the community, so I thought I'd mention his name. UNC plays this week, so you definitely want to take the over. You don't even look at what the number is. It doesn't even matter. If it's less than 100 points, I think you should take the over for UNC. It's another one of those seasons. And then Texas A&M plays Appalachian State. I think this is kind of just a get-right game for Texas A&M and mostly Devin Achane. I know his stat line, I think he had like 18 touches for only like 50 yards. He did have a touchdown, but he didn't look explosive at all. He didn't really get a chance to kind of bounce any runs to the outside and kind of show off the speed he has. So hopefully this is kind of like a get-right game for them. Appalachian State played UNC pretty tough last week, so it's not going to be an easy matchup, but hopefully it's a get-right game for Texas A&M. And another thing I just kind of wanted to point out, just to show you how crazy the skill differential is in college football, Michigan is 51.5 point favorites over Hawaii this week. And I think that's just absolutely insane. And the fact that I don't even think I would bet Hawaii in that game, even being 51.5 point underdogs, that just goes to show you how a top team in the country versus like a lower team in the country, how completely different their skill levels can be. And just for reference, the Thursday night football game that's going to be playing later on today, as I'm recording this, is their total for the game is set at 51.5. So Michigan's expected to beat Hawaii by 51.5 points, and the Bills and the Rams are projected to score in total 51.5 points against each other. I just think that's absolutely insane. And BYU and Baylor play this week. I think it's just going to be an interesting football game. Baylor's ranked ninth. BYU is ranked 21st. So they're both kind of those outside looking in for like college football playoff type teams. And I think it's just going to be a really interesting football game. Jaron Hall for BYU would probably be the only dynasty player that you're looking for. But yeah, I think that's just mostly going to be a good football game. But then we got four games that I kind of highlighted that I'm most interested in watching, mostly because of the prospects that are going to be playing in them. First one is Pittsburgh versus Tennessee. For Tennessee side, we're really excited to see Cedric Tillman play, and I want to see how him and Hendon Hooker do against like a more highly rated college football team. I believe Pittsburgh's ranked like 17th by the time I'm recording this, so it should be a good matchup for football, and I think it's going to be a good matchup for both of them. And on the Pittsburgh side, Keaton Slovis didn't really look great in week 1, so I'm kind of off on him as a prospect, but I do like the Mumfield, the wide receiver they had. He had a really good week. And I'm interested to see what they do in that running back room. Last week, that Rodney Hammond Jr. kind of took over the show on the running back side, and Abanikanda didn't really get many touches. I think he caught a touchdown, but yeah, I'm interested to see how that kind of dynamic goes for the backfield in Pittsburgh. Another game I'm excited to watch is the USC versus the Stanford. I believe this is the late game for that week. I think it goes off about like 9:30, 10 o'clock. For the USC side, Caleb Williams is probably the top QB prospect in 2024 class as of right now. Him and Jordan Addison, which I'm excited about Jordan Addison. I think I'm going to end up being a lot higher on him than most people are. I think he's just smooth route runner, and he's always open. He's one of those wide receiver types, and I think that's kind of the new age wide receiver. So I think I'm going to be a little bit higher on him than most people are. So I'm excited to watch him go against an actual decent team in Stanford. And Tanner Mckee for Stanford, I think, is the next Davis Mills. He's a pro-style QB who is not really athletic, but he just looks like a guy who's going to play in the NFL, and a lot of people are talking about him that he's kind of going to have a big year and rise up some draft boards this year. So Tanner Mckee, just keep your eye on him, see where he kind of ends up towards the end of the season. But in my opinion, I think he's the next like Davis Mills, some guy who's going to get some job, but probably never going to be a key dynasty asset. Big week, two big games. I think these two games are obviously the biggest two games in this entire week of college football. The first one is Kentucky plays Florida. Basically, Will Levis plays Anthony Richardson. And if you are a guy like me and you have a bunch of 2023 picks and you need some QBs in your dynasty league, your eyes are going to be glued to this game. Will Levis had an all right week 1. He ended up having a pretty good stat line, but he looked a little shaky. And obviously, Anthony Richardson took the world by storm. He's Twitter's favorite player now, even though me and David were on him a little bit earlier. But yeah, I think this is going to be a really fun game to watch to kind of see how they play against each other, obviously. But you're going to be watching both QBs make every pass, every time they touch the ball, your eyes are going to be glued to Will Levis. You're going to be glued to Anthony Richardson. I think it's going to be a good football game, and obviously this is going to be a game that you watch tape on later on in the year when you're deciding which QB you want to take in your rookie draft. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see how that game turns out. A couple other prospects for Kentucky. I'm kind of interested in that Tavion Robinson. He had a pretty good week 1. A smaller guy, quick though, so I kind of like him a little bit. See if he has a good game for Kentucky. And Trevor Etienne, the brother of Travis Etienne, I think he's really good. I was watching the Florida game last week against Utah, and he looks like the best running back in that running back room. And I'm hoping they kind of showcase him a little bit more this week. I think he's a true freshman or a redshirt freshman, so he's not draft eligible for at least 2 years, I would say. But I really like him. I think he's a really good player. So keep your eyes on Trevor Etienne, number 7 for Florida. I think he's really good. And I think the last big game for this week is going to be this Alabama versus Texas. Obviously, there's NFL prospects all over the Alabama team, but also this whole Texas offense is projected to be some top prospects in the NFL. For the Alabama side, obviously we're looking at Bryce Young, we're looking at Jahmyr Gibbs, we're looking at our Jermaine Burtons, and Chase McClellan, their other running back for Alabama, had a pretty good week last week, and I think he's got a chance to be probably a mid-round pick in the NFL, but he's like that typical NFL running back that you're looking for. And so I'm excited to see if they kind of do like a two-back system and kind of have both of them showcased, but obviously that Alabama team is just chock full of NFL prospects. But for the Texas side, this is going to be Quinn Ewers' first big matchup against like an actual college football team. So I'm excited to see how he kind of does against that top tier Alabama defense. Bijan Robinson, I think, is gonna have his work cut out for him. This Bama team is usually really good against the run. They always have a tough front seven, so I want to see how he does against one of those top tier defenses. If he can have a good game against Alabama, this could even skyrocket him into being. He's obviously he's right now he's a first round NFL pick, but this could even push him into that top 10 talk, like that Saquon Barkley level, even though NFL teams don't really do that anymore. But if he can have a big game against Alabama, I think that could even skyrocket him even more into one of those top tier running backs of all time, in my opinion. And then Xavier Worthy, he didn't really have a great week one, didn't really get many targets, didn't look great, but I want to see him kind of have a bounce back week this week. I think they're gonna the way to beat Alabama, if it's obviously impossible, I think, to almost beat Alabama. They're an absolute powerhouse. But typically what you want to do is get the ball to the outside, get it in space, and get it to your outside wide receivers and your running backs out in space. You don't really want to attack their front seven kind of straight ahead. So I think Xavier Worthy has a chance to have a good week this week. I think he's going to see a lot of slants, a lot of like screen passes. They're going to try and get him the ball and then kind of let him create. So hopefully he has a bounce back week this week. And as I was talking, my jersey in the box this week is a G.A. Hall. This is obviously a G.A. Hall jersey back when he played for Alabama. He didn't actually play for Alabama, but back when he was at Alabama. He is now transferred to Texas, and he just got reinstated before this Alabama game. I don't know if he'll actually get a chance to play on the field, but he is going to at least be on their roster. Whether he's dressed or even gets a snap at all is another question, but the news is he's at least been reinstated, so maybe he gets a chance to play. Well, we'll see. I think he's still a really good prospect, but he looks like he's probably a bit of a head case, and that's probably not going to do good for his actual NFL prospect kind of future. But yeah, that's all I got for the college football week 2 preview. Not many games to talk about this week, so this is probably going to be one of our shorter episodes. But yeah, if you're going to Penn State versus Ohio, maybe you'll see me there. It should be a really good game. I'm really excited to see some of these prospects, and obviously tune into that Kentucky and Florida game. QB1 versus QB2 in the class. Will Levis versus Anthony Richardson. I think it's going to be a really good game, but yeah. So that's all I got for this week's college preview. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for all the support on the YouTube channel. It's been doing pretty well recently, and shout out to my brother Dill. Appreciate you editing up this for me, kid. And if you can see all of these little players around me right now, that was all his creation. The little logo next to me is all his creation. So I appreciate your work, kid. You're doing a great job. And thank you guys for watching. Peace.